Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. I'm Stanley Carr, and this is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers about their careers in and out of the ring and doing works of community service as well as charity work. Today, I've got a very special guest with me. He is a former SICW Classic Champion, former MMWA Heavyweight Champion, U.S. Champion, World Heavyweight Champion, as well as a Universal Champion of NBW. And he's done a lot of pretty awesome things in the community. It's my pleasure to welcome Curtis Wylde to the show. Curtis, welcome to Wrestling with Heart.
What's going on, everybody? Throwing up the W. How are you feeling? Thanks for having me on, Stanley.
It is my pleasure. So tell me, Curtis, about where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in a lot of different places, but the place that I always called home was the St. Louis area. It's where a lot of my family was, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles. And that's where my mom did a lot of growing up. So this is where our family was, and home is where the heart is. So
oh, for sure.
Did a lot of growing up in St. Louis. Did some growing up down in Horn Lake, Mississippi, just outside of Memphis, when Jerry Lawler was the king of Memphis, literally. And I was just outside of there, Horn Lake, Mississippi. I was able to go to a lot of the Mid-South Coliseum shows, the fairgrounds, Mid-South Fair, and a lot of the TV tapings, actually. I was in the crowd from the time I was 8 till about the time I was 12. I was just outside of Memphis and enjoying everything that Memphis wrestling had to offer.
You got hooked right away. I mean, Memphis wrestling was just such a hotbed. I mean, it was huge.
Well, I got to tell you, even before that, the wrestling bug bit me. I got hooked. I was wrestling with pillows in my grandmother's living room. Not only wrestling the pillow, but I was calling the matches. I have some recordings from way back then. I've got to find them, but I was calling the matches, doing my own color commentary, doing my own play-by-play, doing my own interviews, and interviewing myself at like 5 or 6 years old. So wrestling has been in my blood.
Yeah,
since,
for sure.
I can remember.
It's hooked. You're hooked on it. It's like a drug. You're addicted to it. And as soon as you catch it on the screen, your mind just drifts off because you're just invested into it. And so, yeah, I mean, Memphis had a chock full of characters, and so many of the greats obviously went on to bigger pastures. So it's really awesome to see, like, a lot of the people that I've talked to that have worked with SICW, they've talked about how much they love the Memphis days. And there's like a real connection there almost between the two.
Well, that's one of the things that sets SICW apart. That's one of the things that really separates us, is that we are that old school feel. We are that Memphis energy. You come to an SICW show and it feels like that old school wrestling that you remember with your grandparents, going to at the Kiel Auditorium or the Checker Dome, or down in Memphis, like I said, the Mid-South Coliseum.
Yeah. I got to see that documentary Head Over Heels, and I was just so impressed with the work that was put into it. So it was really cool. Really cool. Really fascinating.
There's a lot of good documentaries coming out right now. One of them that I've been watching is the Stories from the Territories, or Tales from the Territories.
Yes.
It's kind of like Dark Side of the Ring, but it was produced by The Rock, I believe, and his wife. I kept running with that ball. I've been enjoying that. So I think that everybody should check that out. Yeah. Of course, after they check out SICW Wrestling TV and New Breed Wrestling TV.
Yes. Get the plugs in. That's what we're all about here, promotion. So who are like some of your favorite wrestlers growing up? Who are the ones that you love to watch?
Well, Jerry Lawler was a big one, man. I mean, given that I was in Memphis at that time and I was real impressionable. So Jerry Lawler was a big one. I was actually fortunate enough to be able to go to some local things with Jerry Lawler went swimming with the man when I was about 10 years old.
Went swimming? Wow.
Yeah, well, it was one of those promotional things at the local water park. You come down, you meet Jerry the King Lawler. But it was like me and Jerry Lawler walking side by side, and about 20 or 30 kids walking behind us.
Oh man.
So I latched a hold. I was the only one that he let wear his crown. I was the only one that he let wear his belt that day.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah, when things like that happen to you, or when you're able to get in the ring after a show at the Mid-South Fair, and kind of play around with guys like Jerry Lawler or Jeff Jarrett, you really get bitten, and it's hard to get away from it.
It's another one, Jeff Jarrett, another icon in the business who definitely did a lot to help the Southern Territory.
Yeah, and funny enough, he was a 17-year-old boy opening doors when I was down there. As a kid, you would have to send in your self-addressed stamped envelope, and then they would send you back a ticket to the TV taping. And then when you show up to the TV taping, you got to get in. And
sure,
one of those times in particular, we were a little late, and it just so happened that Jeff Jarrett was a 17-year-old curly blonde-headed young man.
Yep.
Opening doors for those late fans.
And look how far he's come. Far both have come. Legends in the game. You're talking about just two.
Yeah, absolutely.
Two of the best for sure. And so you got into it, loving the Memphis scene. When did you know that this was something like, I want to do this for a living?
When I was 5.
You were 5.
I have never gotten away from it. You mentioned that I ventured into politics. Well, that was an experience, but the fact is I came back to wrestling after that, kept going, and haven't looked back. I mean, it's always been wrestling for me, to the point where people probably got tired of hearing about it as I was growing up, family, friends. But I kept going with it, and they can't say that I ever gave up on my dream.
No, I mean, you need to go for, if you want to do something in life, you shoot for the stars, and you definitely have done that. So you start training. What year did you start training to become a wrestler?
1999.
1999. Okay.
Debuted December 99, and then took me about 3 years to really get anything figured out, to be able to venture out and to try new pastures. But it's been quite the adventure. And when I started, you had to be licensed to be a wrestler in Illinois. So if anybody's out there that follows the Midwest wrestling scene, they know that was a long, long time ago. Now Missouri, you have to be licensed to be a professional wrestler, and Illinois is kind of a land of not so many rules. So, and a lot of times I appreciate that, but there's sometimes got to be a gatekeeper. There's sometimes got to be something to keep the riffraff out. And the thing that I did in Illinois to do that was to stay associated with groups like SICW.
Do you feel it was difficult at times to get licensed?
No, I never had an issue, just because I had people who were telling me what to do, how to do it, and it wasn't that difficult. Even back when they were licensing in Illinois, a doctor just kind of comes into the trailer, and you do your physical and all that good stuff, and they kind of passed you right there, and off you went. That was towards the tail end of the athletic commission in Illinois, so I think that they were looking for all their look-arounds they could at the time.
Yeah.
Workarounds.
So you start training to become a wrestler. Was it easy or hard for you to learn it? What was your experience like? Because I've talked to people that have talked about like the training process, and sometimes it was rigorous, sometimes it was it was intense.
It was absolutely intense, and my trainer, Mr. Intensity Brian Dean, up in Powerhouse Championship Wrestling, was a drill instructor. He was one of those guys that if you didn't do something right, you were going to do it over and over and over and over again until you did it right, or at least right enough. And if you didn't do it right, he was going to be up in your face like a drill sergeant, spittle coming out, the whole deal. So it may have been detrimental for some people. We had, stars come in, wrestling stars in their high school, or track stars or football stars, and they just couldn't cut it. They just couldn't cut it because that wasn't an environment that everybody could make it through.
Yeah.
But I unfortunately had a chip on my shoulder at the time. Had a real problem with authority, and I needed that kind of training. I needed that kind of rigorous, in your face training that some other people just couldn't handle.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a long time to really get the fundamentals of all that work down, and once you put it together, it's easy as pie, but it takes a lot of work to
Well, that's
get your
just the
body in
thing.
shape.
Wrestling is never easy. Wrestling is never easy. Every time you fall, every time you punch somebody, every time you do anything. I mean, you're punching the person, but you're going to hurt your hand, man. This is
Yeah,
uh,
it's not ballet.
exactly, exactly. It's not ballet. So everything we do out there hurts. Everything we do out there, um, the body doesn't want you to do. The body doesn't want you to fall down. You know, so you're going against your natural instincts to put on a show for people that
Yeah.
that other people might not be able to put on.
Were you banged up at all at times, or did you feel that there were some moments where you're like, "Oh man, I'm not so sure if I want to do this, or I'm not sure if I'm hurt in this situation"? What tell me about any stories you may have about that.
Well, after 23 years, right now I'm pretty banged up. I'm pretty destroyed. I mean, my body is probably never going to bounce back. I'm never going to be regular, normal again. Never going to live a pain-free life. And I just got to deal with that, given that I've done this for 23 years, and I get that. As far as injuries that happened from wrestling, during wrestling events, I had a toe cut in half once, 6.5 hours before a show.
Oh no.
Yeah, and
wow.
I was the light heavyweight champion at the time. The promoter didn't want to let me go on because I had the toe cut in half, but I had family coming from 4.5 hours away to witness this show. There was supposed to be like 800 people in this gymnasium. We had King Kong Bundy and the Iron Sheik and the Nasty Boys and Road Warriors, and
it's a pretty star-studded lineup there.
One of those shows that you just don't want to not be on if you're booked. You know what I mean?
Oh so yeah.
Even though I cut my toe in half 6.5 hours before the match, which was I was putting up the ring. Some kids came in off the street, asked my promoter if they could help. He let them. One of the larger kids grabbed the heavy middle bar with me, and I told him, listen, this is a gymnasium. We can't drop this because they'll get really angry and they might not have us back.
Wow.
If we do damage. As soon as he gets it up about chest high, he drops it. His side hits the ground, jingles out of his hand, jingles out of my hand, drops down, hits my toe. Ugh. Luckily, one of the wrestlers' wives was a nurse. She went and found the nurse's office in the high school and taped up the toe with athletic tape. I wrestled my match, went to the hospital. Come to find out, it was shattered the whole time. And that was the last night that I worked for that promotion, to be perfectly honest with you, because after all of that, the promoter was very rude and unprofessional. I'm not going to get into any details.
But, yeah, of course.
So I went to other places and started doing other things, and it wasn't but maybe a year or two after that I was the heavyweight champion elsewhere. So
wow,
things happen. Broke my foot on the way to the ring once. During an entrance, I broke my 5th metatarsal on my left foot. I didn't realize it was broken. I thought it was sprained. So I wrestled the match. We went to a 10-minute time limit draw with the bomb, Brian James, a St. Louis great here. Mm-hmm. And we did the 10-minute time limit draw. Crowd was chanting 5 more minutes, and the promoter came out and called it, said, no, you guys come to the back, because he knew that there was something wrong with my foot. I didn't know until I got to the back that it wasn't a sprain, and I didn't know until I got surgery, or until I never got surgery. I didn't know until I got X-rays that that it was a clean break on the 5th metatarsal, the outside bone on my left foot. So I wrestled to a 10-minute time limit draw with no support whatsoever on that left foot, because that's your support bone right there on the outside.
Sure.
So I don't have quit in me. I don't have stop. No. And sometimes you should. Sometimes you should listen to your body and not be the guy that you want to be, but be the guy you know you should be.
A message well served to the young folks who want to get into the business. But talk about a never say die attitude. I mean, those are two gruesome injuries, and look, you've been able to make it back and be in tip top shape today. So kudos to you for making such a miraculous comeback.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if I would say I'm in tip-top shape today, because after 23 years, I'm feeling every bump and bruise and all that good stuff, and I'm working within my limitations, and I'm doing the best I can do to go out there and put on a great show.
Yeah, but you're able, but like you said, yeah, you just said you know your limitations. You're able to know what your body is telling you. You're able to make an adjustment, which is really good.
That's right. This business is hard enough without doing it with limitations. So. I'm trying to work within my parameters that keep me successful in this business and can keep fans entertained.
Yeah, you have to. So you've been wrestling for a long time now, and you've made the transition over to politics, and you ran for the House of Representatives in the state of Missouri. What got you interested? What got you involved with doing that?
Bernie. To be perfectly honest with you, I came in as an outsider. I came in as someone who was there to shake up the status quo, and I think that the Bernie delegates in 2016 helped do that when they elected not only me but 3 other Bernie people to the Democratic National Committee, and many of us went there because we thought that the DNC screwed Bernie. So we were there as kind of political insurrectionists, not to use that term lightly, but we were there to shake it up and to try to make some changes. One of the big things that we got done was we ended superdelegates. Superdelegates are no longer a thing in the DNC. You don't hear about superdelegates anymore, and we're the reason that happened. So. Or part of the reason that happened, something like that is always a collective effort. But the fact is, I realized that politics was more dirty than professional wrestling could ever be. And I just didn't want to be involved in that grime anymore. So I got out of politics and got back into professional wrestling.
Outside of politics and pro wrestling, what else have you done as far as helping out in your community?
Well, we took about close to 5 years off from wrestling when we were going to get married. We were going to start a family. So we took that time off to get married, start a family. And in that time, I wanted to still have some community involvement, still wanted to get involved. So we did a thing called iClean, which was a community organized. I organized the community where we lived, excuse me, to come out and to clean a neighborhood that we lived above a nightclub at the time. When our daughter was born, we did a home birth above a nightclub. And in that area, there was quite a bit of broken glass. There was a whole lot of bars. It was the nightlife area. We lived right smack in the center of it.
Sure.
So I wanted to not walk my dog through broken glass. And in order to do that, I enlisted a bunch of help of local community people and had everybody come out and do a cleaning event. And we did that not once, but we did that 4 years in a row until I got involved in politics.
That's pretty good. You know, you're very passionate and you want to help people, and we definitely could use some more positivity. Like you said, I think, you know, over the last 6 or 7 years, the stuff that you see in the world, it just really does a damage to your psyche. And so you know, one of the things I try to accomplish with this show is to kind of bring everybody back and try to have more unity. That's something I think we need in the world.
Absolutely. There is too much separation. There too many things that are pulling us apart as people. And I think it's by design, because if we all came together, then a lot of the corruption wouldn't be happening. A lot of the other things would simply just not rear their ugly head. Because if you look, I mean, now that we're on politics, we had an insurrection, January 6th, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's taken 2 years for anybody to really have any accountability for that. The same thing, a similar thing, happened, I believe, recently in Peru, where the Peru president tried to nix Congress, tried to dissolve Congress and make himself the president for life or something to that effect. And Congress quickly acted, and he was arrested and charged with treason or their version of treason. Same thing happened recently in, I believe it was Australia. No, Germany, where I think 25 people were arrested because they were going to try to take over the government of Germany with violence. And those things were quickly dealt with, but I think they happened because people saw the United States taking too long and trying to be so bipartisan and didn't want to ruffle any feathers. And now you got other places, other countries that are following that lead. And if we don't get some accountability going, that's going to be happening in a lot of other places.
We've got about 7 or so minutes. We've got a few minutes. Where can people find you on social media?
Well, they can go to my Curtis Wylde Pro Wrestler page. And they can also follow my personal page, Curtis Wylde, WYLDE, Curtis spelled with a C. I'm sure that you might have a link or something in the description. And that's where it's at right now. Right now, the website is unavailable, on hiatus, because I'm redoing some things, and we're going to be coming back out with the shirt store on the website and some different kinds of merch, things like that. But I think that we're going to launch that after the new year.
All right. Well, Curtis, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. It means a lot to me, and I'd love to have you on again.
Absolutely. And your guests can also go check out SICW.org. They can check out New Breed Wrestling on the Facebooks, and I'm sure that New Breed and SICW are on Facebook, Instagram. I don't know about the Twitters. Not too sure about that one, but maybe even TikTok. Check it out. SICW, Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling, SICW.org, and then New Breed Wrestling. You can check them out on Facebook for sure, at New Breed Wrestling.
Thanks so much again. It sounds like a really big show.
Absolutely.
And yeah, definitely. So thanks again, Curtis. And I will talk to you soon, and I'll have this uploaded by next week.
Outstanding. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, same to you.
All right. Have a good one.
Take care.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.